Welcome to the 14th episode of our podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Thibaut from France, who has lived here for the past 10 years. He's the coolest scientist and researcher you will ever meet. This is Expat Episodes, when new stories begin. I'm Martin, your host, and I'll be guiding you through the stories of expats in the Czech Republic. Hi Thibaut, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thanks for inviting me.
How are you? How was your day?
Quite loaded already. Spontaneous meetings on the phone with the team. Yeah.
I see. So could you please introduce yourself? What do you do and what is the team that you work with?
So I'm Thibaut Derrien, physicist since now 15 years, French. I studied in Paris. I made PhD in Marseille in laser physics and then left France in 2011 after a first postdoc, and then I joined Germany first, going through Berlin to work with a very nice collaborator of mine for almost 2 years. And being there, I once just randomly entered some Mexican restaurant, which changed my life for 10 years or even 15 later. Why? Because I met some very nice scientist who was working at Fritz Haber Institute, which is an institute which has, I think, delivered the highest number of Nobel Prizes on this planet. And as a result, I started to interact with them. And then at the same time, I was invited in Prague for working at the Haile Center, Institute of Physics, with Professor Bulgakova, who is also someone who has, let's say, contributed a lot to my let's say, rise. So in order to join the two opportunities, I had written a Marie Curie fellowship with her support, and we have obtained the project. And as a result, I spent time in this institute in Germany, which moved to Hamburg, and to work with top professors and scientists there in quite advanced theories. And they have also big supercomputers, okay? And also working in Prague with the Institute of Physics. And since last September, I started with IT for Innovation here in Ostrava to work as a senior researcher in a quantum computing laboratory because I find it really exciting that Czech Republic is receiving its first machine soon, and that I see it as an opportunity to do something which goes to the future, let's say. Yeah.
I think it's the only quantum computer in the whole CE, no? Or...
in Europe, you mean?
Yeah.
No, there are more of them. There are many of them in... there is, I think, LumiQ project, which is currently setting some different quantum computers in like Germany, Spain, and Czech Republic. There is already some established in France. And here, the first one here will arrive something around September or something like that.
I see. That's really exciting that it's happening in Ostrava, you know. And I think it's so cool that basically all of this, like your career, got a really good push towards a good direction thanks to your like informal visit to a Mexican restaurant, right?
Yeah, this changed a lot of things with this Marie Curie fellowship. Everything kind of rose up, and then I could obtain like researcher position in Prague, and then now even senior researcher. So I'm between the two cities, and it's really I really appreciate that. So now I have students and worked on different topics: quantum computing, continuing with laser, where I have expertise in nanostructuring. Also started some years ago and became not expert, but let's say very proficient with high power computation techniques for quantum calculations. You know, to predict how lasers modify matter and how they excite electrons and how they react. And actually all this knowledge that I developed last, let's say 15 years can be actually applied to quantum computing. That's why this transfer of knowledge makes sense. We just use other colors, let's say, of wave, of photons. And then it's just another system. So the physics will be similar. It's just that we change things a bit, and then we can make real machines out of it.
I see. So let me go back because you were talking about your career or as somebody who does research in nanostructuring and lasers, right? So what brought you to it? How does one become a scientist in an extremely niche field, like to me, extremely niche field?
Yeah, this originates from let's say 2007. I was in an internship in France, in master internship in some nuclear center for tokamaks, you know, these donuts which are producing energy for fusion, using fusion, nuclear fusion. And there I was looking for a PhD, and I found a PhD in Marseille where they were proposing a topic which was actually quite philosophical. I have to admit that it was very fundamental knowledge. Let's say, I usually say applied philosophy, right? Of emergence theory, that we send some laser light to some surface, and out of these two things, which like has a flat topography or topology, you get something which was absolutely periodic and very regular. In some nanostructure appear out of high intensity radiation of light on materials. And I found this quite interesting because I thought, how can this happen? And namely, the topic of my PhD was that, to study how these nanostructures can emerge. It occurred that all these things were very fundamental on the, let's say, physical level, but on the technological level, it had a lot of applications. And as a result, let's say, the cherry on the cake is that we obtained with Haile Center some European patent on this technology of nanostructuring with very high regularity at high speed on metals. And
so how would you transfer this knowledge and this research into real life? What can people accept? Like, how can people benefit from this in the near future, let's say?
They already benefit from it because the way we contributed to this was to find out what are the physical phenomena which are taking place when you irradiate a sample with high intensity light, and how it gets modified. And thanks to this capability to somehow understand, then we could reach the point of predicting what could happen, and then select on which material the magic can take place to have very regular structures. And from that, you can actually repeat how to change colors from far. For example, if you look at flowers or butterflies or even the eyes, they have colors which are named structural colors. It's usually not pigments, it's more some periodic structures. And these periodic structures, you find them on many parts in nature, and they have a function, many functions. They can change how water behaves on it, or liquids, let's say, wettability, we call it. It can change color, it can change, what else? The chemistry of surfaces. So all these, let's say, nanotechnologies of modifying how surfaces interact with the environment takes place at the scale between, let's say, 100 nanometer and 1 to 3 micrometer. And this is where we operate with our lasers, namely. So that's why it has a lot of applications.
So the application would be primarily, let's say, automotive or military, let's say, possibly?
There have been both. In military, we have seen some improvement of like sensors for seeing in the night, this kind of things. And automotive, it's supplied, for example, in engines to change the friction of oil in engines. Yeah, so you can do a lot of stuff with that. It's quite impressive field of application.
Wow, that's really cool.
So nanostructuring, let's say I worked in that for 15 years. I'm less active in this field now. I'm rather trying to be into the quantum everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's.
And the quantum computer or the quantum everything, it's like you have this big computer that will help you like make predictions or like process large amounts of data, or like.
It's a big question. So first, let's start with let's say I've been using supercomputers since 2008 because I'm a theoretician, and running quite large computers in that time. And last years we have obtained some kind of predictive regime where when we simulate with our quantum equations, so like Schrödinger equation but a bit simplified, we can predict how light excites electrons in matter. And this reached such a level of predictions that we can really describe what takes place before seeing the experimental results. So now we really have like real prediction capabilities, and somehow it feels that the loop has been closed, and now we need to use this for other regimes and trying to build something new. So to come to the quantum computer, the point is that there are several architectures of quantum computer, and actually many of them. And personally, I dream about making some kind of photonic quantum computer because it would consume much less energy and be very, very quick. We could do it with materials which are very abundant or this kind of thing, you know. So that would be the dream. The current situation is a bit different, so there is a lot to do. The current situation is more than that some machines have been created, like the one we're going to receive with superconducting qubits, which are based on some stack of thin films that are irradiated with some microwave, and this has been built by rather like companies. So somehow the know-how is a bit framed now. They are selling some computational times. It's expensive, so somehow the IT for Innovation is rather part of a public university, and then want to provide access for users and researchers and students. So we have a need for research so that we can get into this capacity to design some machines ourselves. And this is what I call the qubit design. But also we have a quite large software part where mathematicians directly are developing algorithms which are named quantum algorithms. And this is a part that I know less because I didn't study this until last summer when I obtained the position. And but we have several people who are very capable to create these quantum algorithms. I also will come to it, but yeah, things take time.
Okay, sounds good. You know what this is, or at least to me, this is very complicated, right?
Sorry. If you need to simplify, let me know.
So, like, can you simplify it in like, can you give me like a pitch? You know, you're presenting to your possible future investors, you know?
Yes, sorry. I missed one part, and namely what you're asking for is the quantum computers can give, let's say, the hope. Okay, it's not a pitch anymore. Gives the hope that we could calculate complicated situations, like for chemistry, for example. For now, we use quantum chemistry codes, and also some more approximative techniques, let's say, on big machines. But the computational cost of those predictions is so large that we need now like one nuclear power plant to feed one supercomputer. Okay, so we are at this scale somehow, and the quantum computer is really a hope to tackle as big computations, but with much smaller energy at some point. Just by changing the way that computer works, like from the hardware point of view, plus benefiting some. The quantum computer can enable to have like easier parallelization. Let's say you can have more processes at the same time, counting on nature to parallelize them, and then to reconstruct the information at the end. So it could be much faster, but the research has to be progressing before it reaches some let's say ignition, if I may say.
Okay, that makes much more sense to me now. So we can like cut out the other part. No, I'm kidding. So
We can.
No. So how do you control the supercomputer? Is there like some sort of console or
Yes.
like?
Usually you have some rather old-fashioned Linux terminal that I like a lot. Very powerful thing that you control completely with a keyboard. It's like in the 70s, but there are now much more advanced interfaces, which are close to what guys do in companies, like because if you have access to Python, for example, with some Jupyter notebook, you can already access even supercomputers nowadays.
And how do you input all of this information? Like, how do you prompt it, basically?
Depends what you want to do. Usually on the side of quantum predictions, let's say, to make simulations with, for example, for what lasers do to matter, we just create some atomic structure, put some conditions, like if we want a box which repeats itself, like matter, or just some isolated molecule, And then we defined how the light should behave on it, and then it tells where the electrons go and what are the chemical bonds, how fast they are moving, which electrical current are made there, and how they emit light as well. Well, with some approximations, but this is where we could predict what was happening actually. So it's very good approximations.
So you mentioned that this computer is at the IT4 Innovations, right? Which is
In Czech Republic, this is where the National Supercomputing Facility is located. Yeah.
perfect. So could you maybe walk me through you arriving in Ostrava for the first time? Like, what did you think about it? You know?
I'm interested to see that, like, for example, when I arrived to Ostrava Sinov and I see rather, it's not so. I'm used to capital cities, okay, like Prague, Berlin, Paris, and so on. And for me, when it always gives me some nice feeling when I arrive here, and that I think, okay, guys, many people complain about Ostrava, but you guys have a quantum computer. Even the taxi this morning was Italian. He was completely depressed, and I gave him my card because we can interact on Italian food, no problem. And he doesn't know there is quantum computer here, but then he would be more happy because then there would be like how can I say, something to look at. I think this machine which will arrive is really putting some light on the city. I don't know the city much. There is one friend who is living here, but that's all the connections I had before IT for Innovation here.
I see. So what did you think about the city itself? Like, you know, do you like it? Like, we know that it's small, right?
I had the opportunity to hear about one or two jazz bars.
Okay.
This is how I can commit. Yeah, that's it more or less.
Jazz bars. Why are you mentioning jazz bars in
For me, it's
particular?
essential. I have the work of scientist is very intense, so you absolutely need a place to relax and to just accomplish something else.
Do you do music?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, so what do you do?
Drums,
Uh-huh.
a bit of production, and I like to record people, yeah, sound, and to have some unique experience with sound.
Is there like any way that your hobby complements your work, like music and science?
It's not yet like overlapping. I wish it could. Trying to find ways to do that, but it's not so straightforward yet. Maybe we can make some music with a quantum computer at some point.
Yeah, right. Maybe it can, you know, produce sounds as it's crunching the data or something.
Actually, yes. Yeah, I got some ideas in that field, but let's write the patents before.
Sounds good. What about, because you know, you said that you produce music and you're a drummer. So do you play for any bands or like how did
I
you?
have some bands, yeah, but they are in Prague.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. And one band in Paris as well, but it's just sometimes.
What's the genre?
Rather, there are different stuff. One is some projects in Prague about jazz. One about rather hip hop rock in Paris.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, that's more or less it. And some covers also in Prague with Expat Network rather.
That's cool. So you're like a super high-end scientist and also a drummer.
I like drumming. It really balances well the workload. And what I like with music is that it integrates a lot because within research environment we are very like among foreigners, and then it's difficult to penetrate, let's say, the local community. While in music now I have several projects which are just with Czech people, so it really helps to integrate, and I love that.
Yeah, and to find friends and stuff.
Yeah, more than that, because friends we have also the expat networks, but just to get in, right? Even if we don't speak Czech so well.
And are you planning to learn Czech, or like, do you plan on staying here long term, or you
It's
will?
been already quite some time, 10 years in Czech Republic.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And learning Czech is really difficult for me. I already learned English in a long time span, so Czech would be even longer. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Work is already taking a lot of time, plus music. Then we need some tolerance on the Czech. But when I recently interacted with with a jazz singer who is also teaching Czech, so it was more pushing me.
Yeah, I can imagine. So that you're connecting, like, learning Czech with your hobby, which is
Exactly.
great.
So Strava needs more jazz bars.
Australia needs more jazz bars. Yeah, I guess that's I don't know of any jazz bars actually, but that's because I don't listen to this kind of music maybe.
It's not like a Starbucks with some background. No, it's very different.
Yeah, right. And what do you do in your free time as a scientist? Like, is there? Yeah, does Ostrava cater to your needs, or do you prefer Prague? Let's call it that.
I still live in Prague. Okay.
Okay, I see.
I still live in Prague. IT for Innovation and Veshebe, they have a policy of home office, but I like to come regularly here because I need to meet the people, to interact, and I see more and more than the human contact is motivating me somehow more and more with time. So yeah, this is something I need.
See, this is really interesting to me maybe because when you mention that somebody is a scientist, you would usually expect them to be, shut in and very introverted, not wanting to meet people. So you're like breaking the stereotypes.
I don't think it's me. I think I saw different profiles. I know scientists who have been very isolated, but that's not my style. I really need to alternate between isolation and like a complete peer-to-peer interaction and with some without rules. Let's say it's important because the creativity comes from interaction, to my opinion. Otherwise, if you stay isolated for some time, the ideas they may come, but they will be not so up to date, or they will be different. Staying connected around is very important, and I do it, let's say, as much as I can. But we need to go to conferences, we need to meet friends. Discussing also with non-scientists is super important. I have friends in music who gave some amazing ideas for laser science, for example. So anybody can generate ideas, and it's our job to implement them as we can.
I mean, the example from your own life with the Mexican restaurant, I think that's the perfect example that we can refer back to.
It was really a personal life event which has brought a lot of things on the professional outcome. Yeah.
I see. Is there any specific idea that you can think of that your friends or colleagues in the music sphere gave you to help with your research?
I can't speak too much about it.
I see. You also have to be careful about the patents and stuff.
Yeah, because with lasers you really come to applications easily, and the problem is the controllability of what you can induce as modification on materials. And I have understood how it works for metals. Let's say for insulating materials is a bit harder, or the quantum techniques help to understand that. But for cheaper materials, it's even more complicated. And this is where we are making research, let's say, and even biomaterials now. Yeah.
Okay, so Thibaut, in your qualified research opinion, do you think that the Earth is flat?
Thanks. No. Earth is round. Just climb the mountain high enough, and you will see it. Yeah.
I see. That's cool. Do you like hiking as well?
I like hiking. Yeah. I was hiking in Argentina for some time.
Oh.
Thanks to another Marie Curie project. And what else? In France as well. I was a bit hiking. And in Czech Republic as well. Yeah, you have a nice nature, guys. So it's really nice to walk around there.
Yeah, especially in Beskidi Mountains. Have you ever hiked there in Beskidi? In
Beskidi?
Here in Australia.
Not much here.
Not yet. Okay,
No,
we'll have to take you to
yes,
hike
please.
here.
I really need that. You see, my shoes are adequate for starting the first 100 meters.
So, because we have upcoming event, we do outdoor clubs, right? So we gather expats and we go with them to nearby mountains in Beskidi, so they can hike, meet new people and stuff. So this is also a way how we help people with meeting new expats and maybe the local community.
I remember some hikes which changed my life, so I think it's very important.
So do you travel a lot? I assume so, for work,
with
right?
conferences, yeah. I just undertook a new flat, and then I have space for a map, and I want to put everywhere I've been there.
Okay.
because it's really actually wide and somehow pictures are slipping on hard drives and everything. But when I realized how many destinations we got thanks to research, it's a lot. So it's a big asset, not asset. It's a big I don't know added value.
I see. Do you have any tips for new scientists or for somebody who is right now inspired by what you're saying?
I would say to really use passion. Passion is a great drive, and science became a bit hard. Okay, like when you are in thesis.
I can see that. Yeah, it's very
When you are
hard.
in PhD, you have like a time to study things, and it's nice. You can take your time, but the more you progress, the less time you can take. Yeah, things become more tough, but you have more experience. So becoming a senior researcher, I'm supposed to bring funds, and then to have a lot of ideas and to write proposals and so on. And I feel more comfortable with European projects, for example, where I like the rules, how it's working. With national agencies, a bit more complicated, but yeah, I'm also applying to this. I mean, we should not close doors.
I see. So you pick up a lot of skills, right, as a scientist, because you have to deal with public money and public funding to fund your projects, and it also sounds like it's a lot of bureaucracy, right?
It is. I usually count the time on which how much time I spend on what. And yeah, it easily takes, when you get a project, you spend 20-30% of your time in managing it, not doing the work for the project. So it's really a scientific part, I mean, has less time as a result. So what the scheme now is rather that you apply for projects. Many times you get funded for one, and then you have to hire people to make the scientific part using the vision that you provided as a group, let's say group leader. Yeah. So this is how it works.
Or how hard would you say that it is to get funding for your project?
It's pretty complicated. Yeah. There are centers now who are, let's say, specialized into that, but they take fees, and then the public universities have difficulties to pay them, or it became some kind of business, but it increases chances to get the fund. What I really value is the collaborators who usually they unite, they make a consortium, and then it's more negotiation between the people, but the participants. But then you have less hours to spend for one submission. So this is important, because then you can submit more projects and have a higher probability of funding. When the consortium is great, usually the funding is easier. Yeah.
All right. So when somebody wants to become a scientist, they also have to think about all the other aspects that come with it, and that is project management.
It's a very versatile work, and a bit too versatile. Like usually the scientist is the one who have to deal with all the aspects, and somehow companies do this, but only with specific roles. While in my case, I usually call myself crisis manager, because I have to solve everything in every field, and it can be management, it can be psychology, it can be mathematics, it can be physics, well, chemistry, no. Yeah, so a lot of stuff, even visa management for foreigners who want to come.
Okay.
And, yeah, crisis management.
I see. And you mentioned psychology. I guess that
Yeah.
refers to your...
Or mentoring, if you want.
Yeah, maybe as your role as the science team leader, or...
Yeah. But because there are ways to speak to people in a way that they don't get offended when you speak, like avoiding verticality, or some people prefer to have like things organized on paper, writing, or some other want to have visual structure. All these little tips are super important, and also the trust needs to be developed with students, because they need guidance, and they take it only if they trust you.
So you also supervise like university PhD students?
I have 4 students in total, 2 here in Ostrava and 2 in Prague.
Sounds busy.
It's nice because they bring we spoke about loneliness before, and they bring the noise, let's say. And I need them. I love them. They are great. Like usually I try to see one per day, because they really bring the daily interaction. Yeah, that's the idea.
I see. Thank you so much, Thibaut, for sharing all of this. I have 5 last questions. The first question is, how do you keep your cultural roots alive? So what connects you to France?
Cooking.
Okay.
Try to cook French as much as I can.
What do you cook?
I try ratatouille recently.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it. But when I showed my mother, she told, nah, this is not ratatouille. While I was actually following the recipe, so right, this is France. And I even tried couscous to make couscous some months ago. And what else? Yeah, I love food, so I really try to take care of myself on that. What else? Still following actually a lot of the French media, especially that we have a great radio for jazz, TSF Jazz. Still following it. I hope some friends will be on it someday. And what else with France? Yeah, of course, the French embassy in Prague. I've been interacting with them several times and attended some workshops for scientists there. Also, the French Institute. I organized actually a debate there some weeks ago on AI, artificial intelligence, and maybe the other debate soon. So.
Have you heard about the Alliance Française in Ostrava? They're
Yes,
actually around the
someone
corner.
told me about it. I didn't see yet. I didn't go yet.
Check it out.
Yeah, I should have.
And next question. This may be not that relevant to you, but if your time in Ostrava or this region was a movie or a song, which one would it be?
Look for a song, but taking me short like this. I usually do the opposite. Like I listen to songs and then it makes me thinking about some situation, and then I don't know yet. A song about Ostrava? No, I don't have it yet.
No? Okay, no
Not
worries.
yet.
I'm gonna
Maybe in
ask.
few minutes I will have a.
Okay, we can
some
go
idea,
back
yeah.
to it. And what makes you want to call Ostrava your home? That's maybe also not relevant, is it?
Czech Republic home. Yeah.
Czech Republic
It's been
home.
10 years and I've met amazing people here who prevent me from leaving. I have friends who are really great, so it's difficult to imagine myself leaving. I'm thinking to go back to France sometimes, or people tell me, come back to Paris. But there is some, as I told before, maybe some punk spirit here, which I find people more accessible than when I was in Germany, for example. Yeah. The cultural background is closer to me here than it was in Germany.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's about people for you.
Yeah. I love people.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And what is your special hidden gem in Ostrava? Did you find any?
Not yet. I think there was a nice bar in close to the river, but it's been time I didn't go.
Maybe
I
Dog,
think
right?
I don't remember the name actually. It's been a long time I didn't go. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, a long time. I get
Yeah.
that.
I need more free time.
What about a tips for a trip to France?
Oh, I have to regret about the Czech Airlines. Yeah. No, really, because I like this company. It was very nice. Now they changed it to Smart Wings anyway. So this was nice because you could go to Paris quite cheaper than Air France, and very good quality of service. So yeah. Apart from that, you have to visit France. But when I go to France, I like to actually go to lost places because to meet the cultural life, but apart from cities. Cities I know, I mean, Paris, I know it, the district of suburbs in Paris, I know it. I like to see what I don't know in general, to explore new things. This is what motivates me. So, countryside, yeah. If we can call it this way, some people are offended when we say countryside.
And what if I or our audiences were to go to France? Would you recommend like any hikes or places, cities?
There are several places. I mean, mountains are usually very powerful. If you go hiking in Alps or in Pyrenees, I didn't hike there, but I have friends who did. And some families in Pyrenees as well. So there's some power already there when you feel the mountains. Close to the sea as well. I like Vendée because there are big waves you can surf there, and the beach is very large, so a lot of wind and power as well.
Do you surf?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, this is during summer I try. Yes.
You're the first scientist that I know who surfs.
No, I know many of them. Surf is physics as well, sliding on the slope.
So
Yeah.
you find science in everyday life, basically.
Sure, when you study some discipline, you start to see it everywhere.
Okay, Thibaut, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah,
I
cool.
really,
Thanks for the invite.
really appreciate it. You're the coolest scientist I've met.
I heard this several times.
Yeah, I mean, you serve. You're a science team leader. You know.
I like
all
to bite
about-
life. For me, life is short, and there is a chance to enjoy it to the maximum. And also, people are there usually for some short time, so we need to interact to the max. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that's my mojo.
Thank you so much for sharing this
Thanks
and
a lot.
for your time. And I will see you guys in the next episode. So bye and take care.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, man. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Ostrava Expat Center.